Remember when Harley Davidson proudly symbolized American freedom on two wheels, roaring down highways from coast to coast? Today, that roar sounds more like a desperate gasp. Trump's tariffs have hammered Harley's finances, tarnished its reputation, and left an industry icon clinging to life by a fraying thread. Let's dive deep into the devastating impact these tariffs have had on our beloved motorcycle manufacturer, and why riders everywhere should be outraged. Harley Davidson's troubles began in March 2018 when the Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on imported steel, citing national security concerns under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. This seemingly tough stance aimed to protect American steelworkers, but inadvertently strangled major US manufacturers like Harley Davidson, which traditionally relies on a mix of domestic and imported steel to produce its legendary bikes. According to Reuters reports from mid-2018, Harley purchased significant steel and metal components overseas due to the specialized grades required for various components. While the company also sources metal domestically, the supply lines aren't as straightforward as flipping a switch to buy 100% American steel. Specialized steel grades, global partnerships, and cost efficiency drive the company's procurement decisions. When the 25% tariff hit, Harley's raw materials costs immediately skyrocketed. That additional cost didn't magically disappear. It filtered directly into the production budget. A 25% spike is enormous for any manufacturing entity, and this was especially devastating for a mid-sized company like Harley. Unlike certain giant corporations that can absorb price hikes without passing them on to consumers, Harley had to make hard decisions: raise bike prices, trim employee benefits, or cut operational expenses. Each option carried potentially severe consequences for brand loyalty and workforce morale. The irony here is that Harley Davidson had weathered numerous storms throughout its more than a century-long history. Founded in 1903 by William S. Harley and the Davidson brothers, the company survived economic recessions, 2 world wars, and fierce Japanese competition in the 70s and 80s. But it always bounced back, often with support from the US government. In the early 80s, President Reagan imposed a tariff on imported heavyweight motorcycles to protect Harley while it reorganized and modernized its production lines. That strategic move helped the company reclaim market share and eventually thrive again. In contrast, Trump's steel tariff, meant to bolster domestic metal industries, had unintended fallout that proved far more damaging to Harley than helpful. Rising material costs in an already competitive market forced the iconic brand to rethink its supply chain, scramble to offset expenses, and shift some production facilities overseas to avoid further economic pain. Harley Davidson enthusiasts have historically paid a premium price for quality, craftsmanship, and that distinct Made in America aura. When steel becomes more expensive, that cost has to go somewhere. Harley faced the dilemma of eating its own profits or passing higher prices on to consumers. Longtime riders might still buy a new Harley out of loyalty, but a premium on top of an already premium brand risks alienating newcomers. Numerous business outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, highlighted how the steel tariffs heightened the cost per motorcycle unit produced. It's tough to keep production in the US and maintain affordability for the average rider when you're suddenly paying a quarter more for steel. Instead of protecting American manufacturing, the steel tariff inadvertently accelerated financial strain, partly driving Harley Davidson's shift of some product lines overseas, a controversial move that many loyalists viewed as a betrayal of the brand's American roots. If you're enjoying this video so far, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Thanks for your continued support. While steel often grabs the headlines, aluminum is another critical material in motorcycle manufacturing. Frames, casings, wheels, and numerous components rely on lightweight, durable aluminum alloys. When the Trump administration tacked on a 10% tariff on imported aluminum, Harley Davidson got hit by a double whammy. The steel crisis was already bleeding them dry. Aluminum tariffs only pushed them closer to the edge. As modern motorcycle designs evolve, manufacturers have become increasingly reliant on lighter metals to optimize performance and fuel efficiency. For a bike to feel balanced and nimble, especially one that might still carry a hefty V-twin engine, it needs aluminum parts in critical areas. Harley Davidson had been integrating more and more aluminum to keep up with evolving consumer demands, global competition, and environmental standards. Adding a 10% premium on top of existing supply chain costs quickly ballooned production expenses. While 10% sounds smaller than 25%, it's still significant, especially when layered atop the steel tariff. The combined effect hammered Harley from 2 directions, ballooning the cost of producing each bike. By mid-2018, Harley's leadership faced production cost increases that industry analysts, including Bloomberg, estimated to be in the range of tens of millions of dollars annually. Each flagship model left the factory with a higher price tag attached. In an effort to shield customers from sticker shock, Harley Davidson had few options but to make internal cuts. Employee bonuses vanished, new hiring slowed, and R&D budgets felt the pinch. The once proud brand found itself struggling to maintain stable full-scale production in the US. Freed up capital often funds expansions, new product lines, or modernization efforts. But when the bean counters are forced to allocate more money to raw material costs, that means fewer resources for groundbreaking innovations or improvements that keep the brand competitive. A direct result? Market stagnation and an inability to capture younger buyers the same way foreign competitors do with fresh designs and updated tech. For years, critics accused Harley of relying too much on nostalgia. The company tried to broaden its lineup with more modern sporty bikes like the Street Series, but expensive metals complicated these efforts. Even die-hard fans recognized that some updates, like better ABS systems, electronic rider aids, and advanced infotainment, required constant cash flow. Slashing budgets to cope with tariff-induced expense spikes made it harder to implement progressive changes, leaving Harley in danger of feeling outdated compared to well-funded competitors like Honda, Yamaha, and BMW. While the steel and aluminum tariffs hammered Harley from within the US, the European Union delivered a punishing blow from across the Atlantic. In response to Trump's trade policies, the EU slapped retaliatory tariffs on various American exports, including a stinging hike on motorcycles with engines above 500cc. The tariff jumped from 6% to 31%, effectively pricing many Harley models out of a crucial market. According to CNN Business and Milwaukee Journal Sentinel reports from 2018, Harley faced an estimated $2,200 increase in production costs per motorcycle exported to the EU. This dramatic spike made American-built Harleys far less competitive in Europe, one of the brand's most robust international markets. The prospect of losing EU sales was alarming because overseas buyers have become crucial for Harley's long-term growth. With US baby boomers aging out of riding, the company was banking on global expansion to sustain demand. Suddenly, facing a 31% levy, Harley had few viable options to keep European prices near those of Japanese or European-made motorcycles. Desperate to protect its EU market, Harley announced plans to shift some production to existing facilities in Thailand, Brazil, and India. This decision ignited a firestorm among US fans and politicians who felt betrayed. President Trump himself took to social media, blasting Harley for giving up, despite having triggered the predicament through his own tariff policies. Yet from a purely business standpoint, assembling bikes closer to their export markets was arguably Harley's only lifeline to remain cost competitive abroad. Nothing stung more for the red, white, and blue faithful than hearing that some of those rumbling two-wheelers would no longer be built on US soil. This offshoring seemed to undercut Harley's quintessentially American identity, the very brand ethos that once made it so successful. Many longtime riders felt it was a slap in the face, especially since Harleys had been marketed for decades as the ultimate American motorcycle, born and bred in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania factories. While the shift abroad might have been a pragmatic decision to circumvent sky-high EU tariffs, it cast a dark shadow over Harley's domestic operations. Public perception soured, with critics accusing Harley of taking jobs away from US workers while ironically sporting Made in USA branding. The anger among loyalists was palpable, fueling an already heated debate over whether the company should have tried harder to absorb costs rather than relocate production. The tariff-related crisis led Harley to downsize in the US with the closure of the Kansas City, Missouri plant in 2019. Although corporate statements suggest that market conditions and the optimization of manufacturing capacity contributed to the decision, the tariffs undeniably worsened the financial strain. This closure affected hundreds of employees, a devastating blow for local communities that had benefited from Harley jobs for years. The shift of some manufacturing overseas and the shrinking domestic demand meant headcount reductions. Various news outlets, including MarketWatch, reported that several hundred employees faced layoffs. While these job losses can't be pinned solely on the tariffs, Harley's declining US sales also played a role. The timing and severity of the cuts highlight how the tariffs significantly hastened the company's economic hardships. Within Harley Davidson's workforce, from assembly lines to corporate offices, morale took a nosedive. Imagine dedicating years or even decades to building these iconic machines, only to watch production lines shutter and positions eliminated. Some employees expressed feelings of betrayal, claiming they were blindsided by corporate decisions forced by the new trade environment. Union representatives criticized management for failing to protect American jobs, while management blamed the tariffs for creating a no-win scenario. The intangible cost of eroded morale can be just as damaging as raw financial losses. When a brand that once prided itself on patriotism starts building bikes overseas, the company culture inevitably shifts. Pride in craftsmanship and brand quality weakens, and that blow to morale ripples through everything from product quality to public image. Harley Davidson long thrived on a fiercely loyal community of riders who viewed the company as a symbol of American grit and independence. Clubs like the Harley Owners Group, HOG, fostered brand loyalty unmatched by most other manufacturers. However, the tariff turmoil and subsequent manufacturing moves tested that loyalty to its limits. Some riders steadfastly defend Harley, arguing the company's hand was forced, and that, in a globalized economy, production shifts are inevitable. Others feel betrayed by both Harley Davidson and the administration that promised to protect American manufacturing. Social media and motorcycle forums lit up with heated debates, revealing deep divisions in a community that once seemed unbreakable. Critics labeled the brand hypocritical for decades of patriotic marketing while quietly relocating production to dodge foreign duties. Even though many components had already been sourced internationally before 2018, the symbolic move of shifting final assembly overseas was a PR disaster. The harsh reality is that tariffs imposed to protect American businesses can backfire dramatically, especially when trading partners retaliate. Trump's tough talk on trade ironically shoved Harley into the arms of overseas production lines, fueling the narrative that the brand was abandoning its homeland. When the most famous American motorcycle brand falters, the entire US motorcycle sector feels it. Harley Davidson helps shape motorcycle culture nationwide through charity rides, rallies like Sturgis and Daytona, and a broad merchandising empire. A wounded Harley means fewer resources going into epic tours, major sponsorships, or rider community events. It also signals to rival manufacturers that they can swoop in and capture rider loyalty with new designs, enticing warranties, or simply stable pricing unburdened by steep tariffs. Calling Harley Davidson outright dead might be hyperbolic, but it's fair to say the company has been grievously wounded. Investors saw share values tumble in the aftermath of tariff announcements. Production costs soared, brand reputation suffered, and vital international growth slowed under the weight of retaliatory tariffs. Meanwhile, domestic demand continues to wane as the core consumer base ages and fewer millennials see the appeal of big rumbling cruisers. What was once an indomitable American icon finds itself scrambling for stable ground. The entire fiasco illustrates how delicate the balance can be between nationalistic economic policy and the harsh realities of global trade. Harley Davidson's management may bear some responsibility for not diversifying earlier or modernizing aggressively, but there's no denying that the sudden tariff environment acted like a sledgehammer to the brand's core stability. Recent statements from Harley indicate continued overseas expansion and a focus on electric models like the Livewire to attract younger riders. The brand is also exploring partnerships in Asia to tap into emerging markets. These measures might keep Harley afloat and even help it evolve, but they come at a steep price. American jobs lost, domestic plants shuttered, and a fractured sense of what it means to ride a Harley born in the USA. Onlookers in the business world, and especially in the motorcycling community, are left to ponder the real value of protectionist measures that ironically push US companies to invest elsewhere. The swirling controversies highlight the complex interplay between patriotic rhetoric and real-world market pressures. In the case of Harley Davidson, the lesson is painfully clear. Aggressive tariffs don't necessarily translate to secure domestic manufacturing. Instead, they risk imposing crushing costs that force companies to adapt in ways that hurt the home base. So, did Trump's tariffs truly kill Harley Davidson? They certainly cut deep. America's most iconic motorcycle maker, once synonymous with freedom, is now entangled in a global web of tariffs, shifting production, and wavering consumer faith. Let's remember, it's not just about losing a motorcycle brand, it's about losing a piece of American heritage. If you found this breakdown informative, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us keep riding through the noise, delivering straight facts and an honest perspective on the bikes we love, or used to love.